will turn my volume up. I will turn... This should be y'all's volume. All right. Oh, there it is. Now I found your volume. It's been so long since I've done this.
I mean, that's fair.
All right. Greetings and salutations, viewers and travelers. Welcome to the Inn of Planar Crossroads once again. And welcome to our first Around the Hearth in a while. We're coming to talk about, as the title suggests, a song that most people probably just don't think of right off the top of their head, so probably won't get a whole bunch of views. But it'll still be fun to talk about, which is what we care about. And that is Self-Control by Laura Branigan from the 80s. But there are 3 versions that you will hear in the background occasionally as we go through this. So maybe you'll like one version better than the other. Links to all of them will be down in the description below because I don't own these. We're just going over them. Announcements to get out of the way. I don't really have that many. I don't really have any announcements right now. So that's real fast for us. The only thing I can
5 minutes or less, it was time.
Boom.
Yeah. The only thing I can think of is that we're doing it's something kind of like a how to play series. It's kind of like a rule synopsis for Open Legend. I kind of went with Open Legend, not just because I play it with my son, but also because it's a lot more rules light, and those are a lot easier to make these type of videos for. Because...
Imagine trying to do all of the rules of all of Pathfinder just 20.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's the only way I'd ever do Pathfinder rules again, is if I did the old rules, because they're done. There's no more patches or errata coming out. It's all done.
Yeah.
That's the only way I'd do it. There's new stuff coming out for Open... Yeah. There's new stuff coming out for Open Legend, but the beauty of it is the core rules are going to stay the same.
Yeah.
And then all the other stuff is homebrew that you can piecemeal in. So we'll also cover that. That is an announcement. We'll cover homebrew stuff kind of at the end of things when we get there. The optional rules.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's it. Let me see. Does Bomb Squad, aka Avenue Studios, have any announcements that they need to get into before we get into the chat?
I don't think anything special. Friday nights is when our shows go up, so
yeah.
Check it out. We have fun in Open Legend, and definitely check out the Adam stuff with Open Legend. I've been really enjoying it already. It's great.
Yep. I appreciate that. And you can tune in and watch him and his family roll dice and tell silly stories.
Yep, basically. We laugh a lot.
Oh, yeah.
It may be getting serious. We'll see. It's,
I'm looking forward for the shoe to drop when, because I know she has a true form when Ingrid's true form comes out. I know. You can tell. Kristen, I know that Ingrid has a true form that is not the old lady. I'm just saying.
Adam can't wait for your true form to come because he knows. She's just smiling. Yeah. She says nothing.
And then I think it'll be hilarious to watch Iliad react to that because he's facey. So he's like, he'll probably be looking somewhere else, and then he'll be like, oh,
yes.
Hello.
If it's knowing David, it'll be like they've already moved on from it, and he comes back to it.
Yeah. What happened? When did this go on? It'll be the gnome, the gnome party all over again, where he doesn't know that the little gnome's in love with him.
Yep.
All right.
We have fun.
So now let's get into what we're talking about. Does anybody want to start? I have some notes from Kane, if no one wants to start directly. So we'll hear his first. So.
Sure, let's start.
I'd be cool to hear Kane's first.
Yeah.
Okay. So Levi's probably already seen them, but for Dan and the viewers' sake, the Laura Branigan Self-Control. Oh, by the way, we will have the. You guys can see lyrics on screen, or at least the viewers can. You guys got the link. So,
Yep.
If you want to reference back to that, we'll have that in the description as well. But one of the things, since Kane couldn't be here, sent me just a little paragraph that said he got some loose ideas from the song, and the character, he thinks it would be cool if it was centered around a character that is tied to some kind of nightlife, which, that's what kind of the theme of the song is, which is in turn illicit to some degree, whether that be gambling, drugs, or assassination. So there's that option. He also suggested the character is possibly also tied to the night in a more literal sense, something like a Damphir or a Fetchling, where the darkness is a real part of their life, not necessarily by choice, aka the loss of self-control. And his third note was, perhaps they owe a debt, and this could be any character, perhaps they owe a debt to whom is up for debate, and are obliged either through threats or compassion to repay it, thus the perceived loss of control. So those were kind of his cliff notes. And I really liked that he brought up something along the lines of a debt, but possibly like a debt involving that person in an illicit nightlife, but through not just a threat like a mob boss saying do this or we'll break your legs or something, but also that idea that compassion has driven this perceived debt and loss of self-control.
I think that kind of storyline often gets tied into the idea of someone who was forced to live on the streets, who kind of found themselves saved and raised by a gang, and even though they would want to move themselves on to a more honest path of life, that compassion they have for the people who took pity on them when no one else would obligate them into this.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's one specific path you could go with Kane's interpretation, and specifically tying it on the more compassionate sense.
Yeah. Ooh, that brings up something interesting too, for somebody being undercover, having that feeling of loss of self-control too. Like duty has driven them. What was that Leonardo DiCaprio movie? It also had Mark Wahlberg in it. It was The Departed or something like that. But
you might be right.
I think it was The Departed. You guys can tell me in the comments section below if I'm right or wrong. So, but in it, the character that Leonardo DiCaprio was playing came from the rough streets, but he wanted to be a cop. And he was going to make a pretty good cop. But when he went through a lot of aptitude testing and stuff like that, seeing where he would fit well and his superiors watching him and stuff, they wanted him to go undercover, which means they needed him to fail at being a cop and actually go to prison for a few months and then get out and go put his life back together in his old neighborhood to actually try and catch the people that were involved in it. Involved in what they were trying to take down. So it was really an interesting movie in the sense that you got to see that, but you also got to see the backstabbing that would happen when it's found that there is a cop on there's a mole in the precinct that's heavily involved in the investigation. And it spoilers, I guess, if you're going to watch, but it's not really a spoiler because it's kind of part and parcel with the tension of the movie. It's one of the really good, high testing, excellent cops, one of the ones that were high test grades and all this type of stuff and things like that. And I forget that actor's name though, but that idea of that could be woven in. That's more of a backstory thing for sure. That's more of something that the GM holds on to until the right moment arises. So
yes.
Okie dokie. But that's from Kane. Now, who wants to go first? Or am I rolling a dice?
I'm pretty down for a dice roll. Like, I would have been fine going first, but there's just that part of me that wants the randomness.
Feels right.
Roll the dice, roll the dice. I don't have a problem, you've got a problem.
Let's see. So according to my screen, Daniel, you'll be 1 and 2.
Okay.
The true in himself will be 3 and 4, and I will be 5 and 6.
Okay.
All right, we landed on 3.
Okie doke. I guess that's me then.
It is you.
All right.
The master leads.
Okay. I kind of wanted to go after you guys, so I didn't taint anything that you were thinking about, but that is okay. I was telling Dan earlier that I had heard this song before, but the version that I had heard and I was like, I need to turn that into something, was one that I heard when I was older and was driving home or from work or something like that. And it was the Sunny Girl or Sunny whatever. It's in the link in the description. But that's the version that I first heard. And it is one that is got a bit of techno in it and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, well, this sounds pretty average for what you would get inspiration for. The night is my world, city light, painted girl. In the day, nothing matters. It's the nighttime that flatters, and so on and so forth. In the night, no control. Through the wall, something's breaking, wearing white as you're walking down the street of my soul, and so on. It felt very vampiric, very much that way, leading into what Kane was talking about and such. But also, I was like, well, you know what? Something that we were also doing then is playing Starfinder. And in Starfinder's setting, there's Absalom Station, and there are legitimate undead that live in Absalom Station that are non-violent. I was like, what if you took that idea and you kind of did your own thing with it? You had this city, so you imagine this cityscape, and this woman's looking out of it, or just this character, this nondescript character. You can't tell from the back type thing. And they're holding open their drapes, and you see the cityscape there with lights of red and pink and yellow along the different skyline portions of the city. And they're looking out, and it starts to follow the idea and the path that they're involved in in something they're having to investigate. But in that investigation, they have a situation arise where they find out that it's probably more supernatural than it might necessarily have first looked. So they have to get involved in that and start to go into it, and they have to figure things out. And as they do, they see that this is something more, and you start to get this cyberpunk feel, or I did. You get this cyberpunk feel of they're investigating, and magic wasn't necessarily a big thing until they started to investigate in their life, and they get involved with, or they start to have to deal with this underground, not cult, but coven, there we go, underground coven of vampires that are there. But it's all cyberpunk, it's all teched to where, sure, they're killing, and sure, people disappear, but in the back of history, or perhaps the city has thrived under them and what they do and how they manipulate the city and the different powers that be and stuff like that. And you start to get this idea, and depending on how deep you want to go with how the loss of control can be, you could go full dark city where Dark City is a good movie for inspiration. You guys should watch it. We'll probably do something on it at some point. But it's always night. And nobody realizes it's always night. Maybe that's something that if you're working on this as a setting, that you foreshadow with your characters. That every time you talk with them, or every time that the game starts, it's night. Maybe they think that it's always night because of the night. They're on the night shift. Maybe that's what their characters do. And a fun way to play with that is there's an idea that when someone starts to get too close to what the vampires are doing, or not just, and when I say vampires, I don't mean just vampires that suck out blood, but essence vampires, life vampires, kind of a mixing of the Chinese and the Western styles of vampires. So mixing that together, and whenever somebody starts to get too close, or they start to come into a bit of a problem with the families and the heads, they get on the day shift. And the day shift could be something that, you tell your players that, that everybody wants to get on the day shift. The hours are better, the money's better, you then make it desirable so that people work and are happy to get on the day shift, because that makes their essence and their blood and their life essence more desirable. And so you could work this whole thing around if you wanted to go really ham with it and say, oh yeah, there's this city. You've always been here. You've always lived here. You grew up here. I mean, as scary as it may sound, most people don't leave 50 miles past their house. Some people stay in the same city in real life their whole life. So that's not crazy to think about. So
I love that, dude.
So that's kind of a start of my idea.
Mm-hmm.
Right, we've got the inciting incident of a campaign, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Not the inciting incident, inciting preconditions, like baseline world assumptions
Right.
of a campaign.
Or at least a fair few one-shots to be set in.
Yeah.
I mean, true.
Yeah, that would totally work for one shot. It would be cool if you can lay it out well where the players don't question not seeing the day. Mm-hmm. That I really like that concept.
It'd probably work well in a setting, in a system that you have more control over things that are, or it's expected that things are off or different. Call of Cthulhu would probably work well.
Sure.
Because then they're expecting old gods, which is, that's fine.
Right. That's fine. I actually got Cthulhu crossed my mind listening to this song too.
Fair enough.
I totally got the vampire feel as well, but I love the cyberpunk take on it.
Mm-hmm.
There's I don't know if you guys know Garth Nix. He's an author. And he has this great short story where he has vampires, but they're tech. They're basically old. Some alien races were fighting, and it's leftover secret weapons on Earth that they have to clean up.
Cool.
Yeah, it's
really interesting. Yeah.
It made me think of that idea. There could be a lot of cool ideas to steal from that too.
Yeah.
All right, so that's me. If we're gonna get this,
Yeah.
Who's next?
Well, how do you feel, Levi? Are you super excited?
I mean, I was just gonna roll again. Just
Oh, okay.
not gonna be urgent for it. We don't have to consistently. So 1 through 3, you 4 through 6, me.
Sounds good.
All right, roll to 2.
All right.
Looks like I'm going last.
Excellent. The finisher.
Yeah.
that used to be the nickname I gave myself and my family because I ate all the leftovers.
Oh.
Okay, I'd still do that. So
you can feel free to take it.
yeah.
Well, I was just it actually worked because I was kind of I want to say poisoned is not the right word because I had never heard the song before. So when you sent it, I immediately saw the 80s music video. And we were talking about this before we started recording. So that's like completely influenced how I was seeing this. If you haven't seen it, it's
very 80s.
It's very 80s. So I was like, my mind went to like, I definitely thought of vampires, but I was leaning towards like a succubus character. Just based on the song and the story that it seemed they were telling, and I don't know if my mind went too dark, but I don't think so, is that I thought of a character who was probably taken advantage of at some point. Maybe, like the good girl who decided to go out one time and she was put in a bad situation, got taken advantage of, and in the aftermath of that made a deal with some kind of dark power to take revenge. And so at night, she isn't herself. This other being takes over. So I was playing with in open legend, like alternate form ideas, the feat alternate form, and where the succubus just takes over. And so I was thinking like 80s again, because I saw the movie, the setting was like 80s dirty cop sort of campaign where either that could be the villain or it could be one of the player characters. And how she's starting to regret the deal she made now, even though it's probably saved some people. Like I like the idea that the succubus form has saved some other girls of the night, stuff like that. So you could even go with an 80s Jack the Ripper sort of feel too to it. Yeah. Which could be interesting. So I don't know, I just got that feeling because especially in the music video, the way it wraps it with the guy in the mask taking her around, but then at the end the guy she's with is, sorry, my son was coughing.
No worries.
Okay. So a thing that went through my head with this is it's almost like it has some similarities to like that Ghost Rider vibe of where you made a deal to stop things, but it just forces you to enact judgment.
Yep. And the idea too is kind of like classic Warlock in 5e, that the power that's taken her over obviously has ideas of its own and is slowly taking her over. It's a battle between the two.
Okay.
I'll grant you vengeance if you let me, possess your body. And of course that's going to lead to something. Maybe it's a way for it to come in. Because then I started thinking Cthulhu. Well, maybe she's going to be something that does the ritual that brings one of the old ones back.
Okay.
Or, a lot of ways to take it.
Yeah. Under the idea of it being an old god, I almost imagine that there's just a spring of wishes being granted and strange things happening. And, you have, okay, so the PC came to you with that, and you were willing to move your campaign idea around some. There would be an idea that they would be kind of the informant connection for the rest of the party of how that worked, and that they didn't even so much make an active pact, because the old one's power is generally beyond the point of caring about one individual, but you wanted it so badly that your wish was granted, but that was the price for it, even though it's not like the old one made a deal with you. They were just so powerful that it enacted.
That's interesting too.
And you're the lead in to letting the rest of the party understand what else is happening around. Or what the party solves is what leads to you understanding what happened to your character. If you wanted to go more into how I often view the Cthulhu-y myths.
Yeah.
Mythos is the word I wanted to use there, not myth.
Mythos.
Anyway.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see one thing that would be fun to do is as the characters It would depend a lot on what type of characters you have, and especially if it's set in a modern setting or not.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a fantasy modern setting, it could be a lot of fun to say that, oh yeah, there's magic around here, or there's magic in certain places.
Mm-hmm.
And in that magic in certain places, it grants things. You get things. Things happen. But as the longer you're there, type thing, the more the exposure gets to you, because that's a lot of how the stuff with Cthulhu worked. The Cthulhu mythos worked. It should be called the Lovecraft mythos.
Lovecraftian, yeah.
But Lovecraftian mythos, or the Cthulhu mythos, works a lot about just the proximity to the thing is what drives you bonkers.
Yeah.
It's not you don't even have to see the thing. Just being close to it and near it is damaging enough to your psyche. And if you had something that you played with sanity, even in a system that doesn't necessarily start with sanity,
right,
you could just you could kind of go with that. And it would be interesting if your characters were up to having that added in, or if they wanted some surprises along the way where you kept track of their sanity and you told them, occasionally you would tell them something opposite of what they were about to say or do.
Shameless plug for Open Legends, because Van Gogh, was it Van Gogh on Discord?
It was Van Gogh, because I helped him make that setting.
Oh, really, dude? It got the insanity and stuff.
It was... Oh, I can't remember the other person's Discord username right now, but it was like myself, the other guy, Van Gogh. We helped him plan out some, a lot of locations, built up some of the threats in the world, helped him go back over the, creation lore that went into it, and yes, did help him balance some sanity mechanics and feats for sanity.
Because you can totally rip
in the
those for
Dwemer campaign setting.
Yeah, and those can easily be moved to any setting, really.
Better make sure you got goodwill.
Especially in this case, because this would be your own magic would be kind of tied to the stuff,
right.
And there was definitely aspects that using the magic could reduce your own sanity because of what it was tied to.
Yeah. I just did a one-shot with the Wild Magic Surge in there, and it was a lot of fun. We just used that, and it was a blast.
Ooh.
But I love, Adam's, your idea, taking the wishing well from Levi, and that I love that idea because that broadens it out to all the characters, and it gets more of the essence of the song. I think, at least what I was picking up on, is the night slowly creeping in on you, and it's so everyone has to deal with it. It's not just necessarily one character.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I'm already running 2 campaigns, guys. You can't start me on another one.
That's why we talk about these things. Well, then what
you do
yes,
is you just write some of it out, and you wait till one of the campaigns comes to a natural, pause, and you just run a one-shot, just to see how people are feeling.
That's a good idea. Later.
Got anything more, Dan?
Nope, that covers it.
All right, Levi, you're up then.
I am. There was a part of me that wanted to pedantically roll a dice roll saying 1 through 6 is me, but I decided against it.
Well, I mean...
anyway.
You can't be pedantic because he's already here. So.
Wah, wah. What you play to you, sir?
So bad. That was such a bad joke, and I love it.
I absolutely award legend points to bad punny jokes in my games. Because I love them so much.
So oddly enough, instead of making a new thing when I heard this, it reminded me of something I made a couple years ago for a one-shot that became a two-shot because I yeah, things just kind of went a little weird. It was fine.
Been there, done that.
It was the modern fantasy setting with kind of magical mafia houses.
Okay.
And so what I built them off of, just because I was just learning Open Legend at the time, was for each extraordinary attribute, there was a mafia house who specialized in magic centered on that.
Cool.
I think the one I'm talking about was... So most of the world didn't really have any magic, but like, I think it was like 1.5%, somewhere around there. And the specific house that this reminded me of was the House of Illusions.
Okay.
The important thing was, because, you know, each, like, mafia group, whatever, has to have a main way that they make their money. And when I hear this, well, more so look back over the lyrics, because just hearing it, sometimes I phase out on the lyrics. It sounds almost like an addiction to me.
Mm.
In many ways. I have this feeling that, like, not so much that they had always been that way, but such that they have been changed so much that they can't really feel the real aspects of the day. And in this case, so in Open Legend, it's the influence attribute.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, they would use it to make a magical drug equivalent, where you would have, like, a half hour of pure bliss, and then you'd have to, like, try and go back to your normal life until you could afford more.
Nice.
Right, and it very much so has this... I think part of the reason that I went back to this idea was a safe night, I'm living in the forest of my dream. I know the night is not as it would seem, and, like, there's this idea that they can tell that it's wrong, but they just keep going back to that dreamlike state.
Mm-hmm.
And then they lose their self-control in the way that any prediction progresses. It's just not, you know, to a physical drug.
Right. I can
Yeah,
see
That's
how,
what it is.
I can see how that would definitely play in, especially if you started to, if you wanted to mix in the other houses trying to get involved and people wanting the bliss but not wanting to be not wanting to be addicted to that type of thing. And really, would it be something that house would keep from the public? Or would they dangle it in front of them? Would they want certain things from certain officials? I guess it would depend on how big you want to go with that influence then.
Yeah. If I remember, again, this was world building for a one-shot for which the notes I can't find anymore. From, like, 3 years ago. So, I don't remember the exacts of how much confusion it was. I think in my setting, like, the government and, like, the magic mafia had a basic agreement to try and act like magic didn't exist in front of most people.
Okay.
Because neither side wanted a full-out war.
Fair. So there's kind of like this uneasy balance between them and them having to explain it and explain away stuff.
So, yeah. They mostly sell to the small magic-knowing populace.
Okay.
Not all of which are within, like, the mafia groups, but many are. So it is actually mostly sold to other mafia people, but you don't, like, pour a powder out or something. Like, it is an active person who is putting you in that state.
Oh.
Well, that's
like, someone is personally weaving it for you.
Mm-hmm.
I see.
So you need some alliance with them to work effectively, or they just won't.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and that plays in a lot to the idea of I haven't got the will to try and fight against the new tomorrow. So I'll just believe it that tomorrow never comes, and so I can see where that's going, and it's interesting that there's been movies before about how differentiating between the real and the unreal starts to become harder, and playing with that could really be interesting, because you're in that person is in complete control over your mind when they're weaving that illusion for you, like when they're giving you that bliss. But if you don't know that you're there, they could weave anything they wanted to into that thing, so they could make it seem like you woke up and that you went and did your life and that things happened to you and then you came back.
What's that film with Arnold Schwarzenegger where he goes to that they put the memories in your head and then he wakes up halfway through and he's
The Sixth Day?
No, I don't think it was Total Recall is what I'm thinking of.
Oh, you're going with Total Recall. Okay.
Because the end, you don't know, is he still in the dream, or
oh yeah,
is this real? I love that idea.
It also works real heavy in that it's a similar vibe to Inception, but it's got that magic base to it.
Right. I actually thought, when you were describing, I thought of the part in Inception where they show the people who can't sleep anymore unless they're hooked up to those machines. This is almost people maybe can't even feel happy anymore. And that's the slow loss of even being able to feel joy unless you're in that bliss.
Right, because as you get more and more used to their powers, they're gonna amp up how much bliss there is till the real world is just either numb or all pain.
And see that with it being magic and not a physical reaction base, like a chemical reaction base, the serotonin won't matter. Those feel good hormones won't matter because you're not getting it from the hormones. It's a magically induced feeling. So it could really mess up a person.
That's interesting.
And they're depending on how your setting would work with whether individual people are magically inclined or not, or if everybody has magic in them type thing. So depending on how your magic system works, you could weave it to where it actually you become so addicted to the magical bliss, the illusion, that to be without the illusion is literally impossible to feel other things than you want to feel.
Yeah. It's like your brain's forgotten how to send the correct signals to produce the right hormones because some outside force has been doing it for it.
Yeah.
That's cool. The other thing I like about this too is there's a lot of different types of parties you could do. You could do a bunch of addicts or another mafia house trying to get in on territory. You could play the cops who are in on it, or whatever kind of thing, whatever kind of CIA or something that's taking care of keeping the magic quiet and dealing with the addicts. There's a lot of different party ideas you could have there.
Like Magic Containment Agency, so they're the MCA.
Right.
Something.
That could be fun to play with too, because they have to see all the crap and keep it under the rug, and
they have to see the people who have had so much of their own magical essence corrupted by that overabundance of the illusory magic, that they're basically just walking zombies. They don't feel anything. They don't hear. They have a hard time. It would be really interesting to see how much of a physical effect it would have if the corruption went into the individual's magic self. because how far could you go? Could you get someone to the point where they were totally just a puppet on a string to you, that that they didn't pay attention to anything that wasn't that you were completely, you had complete control over them, you literally wove everything they experienced because they no longer paid attention or saw or experienced anything else? So, I mean, you could, if you went that far, you could literally have them have an army of addicts, but they're not really addicts, they're just people. An army of people who did basically whatever they were done by the little threads of magic that they were, the illusion that was being wove for them of what they saw.
Yeah. These people who are staring past you but see exactly where you are. Right, like, I'm imagining that, like, they're looking, they have their tasks that they're supposed to be doing, and they see someone who they're supposed to take out, I don't know, and they see a friend who they just, like, go up and hug, and they can't, like, tell the difference in how hard they're hugging anymore, or, like, where you can tell they're not seeing you, but for some reason you're not able to escape them.
Right, yeah. That could be really creepy. I totally had another thought. I just pictured Attack on Titan and how the Titans are always crazy smiling when they're like going to kill you. That could be maybe it could be a different reaction, like different people reacts a little bit differently. So some people just get stuck with a plastered smile on their face, but they're just...
You could go full on with that idea, though. I mean, you could go full on with the creepy, because they are happy. Everything's good. Everything's fine. It's bliss when they weave for you.
Yeah, you stab them and they chuckle because it feels nice.
Oh man,
It's so warm.
Like, they've been smiling for 5 days straight, and like their lips are tearing at the corners.
Yep, their lips are cracking. They're not getting enough. They're not eating, they're not drinking enough or keeping them moist enough, and they crack.
Yeah, you just stop taking classic, like getting trapped in virtual reality sort of feel. You just stop taking care of your body.
Maybe they've got even backpacks with IVs on it just to keep them alive for longer.
Yeah, if they're just wanting to have a force to fight for them. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They don't do their own fighting, you know. They don't.
Well, of course
not.
Do
that house doesn't do that.
Oh.
They have their.
Oh, that's. There could be your inciting incident. It's like when people go too far, they just kind of disappear, and no one knows.
They go on the day shift.
That they have. Yeah, exactly. So they're all melting together.
See, because
okay, you could totally add magic like this to vampires.
Yeah, see, because so taking yours and then taking mine. Those people, it's always night. And everybody thinks it's always night because it's supposed to always be night for the vampires. And the people that they're those essence vampires. So as they weave the essence they weave that bliss for people, they receive the nourishment and harvest it and put it into not just from their blood, but from their self. And they filter it into those little things that that the vampires hook themselves into and get the nutrients from.
That such good vampire imagery too. You get the creepy sensual vibe with it because they're feeding off another vampire almost that's soaking all the life energy. I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very disturbing.
Very Interview with a Vampire.
Yes.
So. But Cyberpunk.
Yeah. I can honestly imagine playing a one-shot where everyone, like, you've told everyone that this is like a nice, happy, fluffy setting because everyone are addicts. And like at the very end of the session, they wake up and you're like, good one-shot, guys.
Yes. The best one-shots, they're hooked. And they want more.
I'd say
that would be a great intro session.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
Good one shot, guys. You accomplished your mission. And see, they're in that happy fun time, and then that's when they stop weaving. Is when when you're ready to end the game, and as they start to wake up, you start to do it just before, like when the final combat is happening, or something like that. You start to let little bits of the illusion slip. Like you look around and you see the walls that you're looking at aren't pretty and painted anymore. They've got this torn wallpaper and stuff like that. Oh wait, no, never mind. That was something else. That was probably a different room.
I love the meta of that when the GM goes, "Oh wait, never mind, you didn't see that."
Yeah. But I think one more thing I would bring up is when I was reading the chorus and I was looking at it, and it says, I live among the creatures of the night, blah, da 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 da, and it says, against a new, I haven't got the will to try and fight against a new tomorrow. So I guess I'll just believe it. I'll just believe that tomorrow never comes. And I was thinking that it would be really fun to try and use this as inspiration and try and weaving in that idea of a dark Groundhog's Day type of setup, where you don't have. Imagine the loss of control that you would feel when every day you woke up and take your little hand in mine. I mean, it's played up for fun in the movie.
Right.
It gets dark a little bit because he's just like killing himself over and over again.
Right.
But eventually he just accepts it and goes on. But isn't that kind of the thing too?
That's a really interesting idea. Would you go insane? Yeah.
If every day
Yeah.
was the same. What was it?
Okay, have either of you seen the anime Steins Gate?
I have not seen it, but I have caught clips and stuff of it, so I
Same.
think I get where you're going.
Okay, Dark Groundhog's Day, totally a thing. Anyway.
Yeah. There was that a way to pull this off would actually be what Man Shorts. They did a D&D Groundhog's Day or something like that little skit. I'll try and remember to link that in the description. But every time that they would die, the DM would say, "You wake up and you see that it's da 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 da," and he'd say the exact same thing every single time. You're standing before a man in a top hat, speaking to a crowd of people. They died. You open your eyes and you're standing before a man with a top hat, speaking to a crowd of people. They die again. Some other down the line, and so on and so forth. And the whole thing's designed around the idea that you're going to die over and over again. Cheap deaths, maybe, and stuff like that. But the idea of the game, in that particular skit that they did, was to use those deaths to get you to the eventual, oh, this is the right combination for this lever and that, this and that, and then don't.
Yep.
Very much like the Steingate that was being referenced, and a lot of time travel things. So I could definitely see a dark version of that, especially if it would be fun to play with the idea of, on a separate note, it says, "I live among the creatures of the night." It does not say, "I am a creature of the night."
Mm-hmm.
So what if you're the only human amongst a city or a town of nothing but monsters? Or you're the only human in basically an Underdark setting, or something like that. And you're just trying to make your way in this, and tomorrow never comes because there's no real day-night cycle down there. So that's a very that's even a low-tech way, a low-magic way to try and incorporate this. Like if you're doing a Journey to the Center of the Earth type thing. and you're wanting to kind of emote some of those ideas, you're underground, you could do it.
Yeah, that's good.
All right.
Yeah.
So many fun things came from this song.
It was a good topic, I gotta say.
Ooh, I will say, if you are going to do this in the Cyberpunk thing, make sure that there's some geisha girls are in there somewhere, because it says a city light painted girl.
Painted girl, yeah.
An excellent tip of the hat to that.
Yep.
Oh, it could be like in... Oh man, that could be the one true thing in the Cyberpunk setting, or the one consistent thing, or something like that. Or it's an important thing, an important tip. Like in Blade Runner, you always see the geisha girl billboard.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, I could see that.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Okay. You guys got anything else before we finish up this chat?
I think I'm good.
Okay.
Play games, have fun.
Yeah.
Good message.
All right. Well, thank you, travelers, for stopping by once again at the Inn of Planar Crossroads. Thank you, Dan, for stopping by from Avenue Studios. And thank you, Levi, from basically Discord and the Open Legend Discord especially. Very active there. And you can check him out. He's a good
Levi
guy.
of Discord. I like that.
Well, that's not who he is on Discord, so...
Right.
I don't know. He can tell you his Discord handle at some time if he wants to. But that's on him.
Hey, you don't need to find me. I'm at these chats. That's good enough. Sometimes I'm in games.
Oh, so mysterious. Oh, no. All right.
Hey, if I ever make a channel, I'll give you something to plug.
Okay. Fair enough.
Sweet.
All right. Well, then, as always, travelers, have a great day. God bless. And enjoy. Bye.
Bye.
This content was made possible by travelers and viewers like you. Thank you.